night, I woke up in the hospital, confused, uncomfortable, and in pain.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the attack, and I choose to call it an attack instead of referring to it as the parade, as somebody mentioned. Very few of the victims who were struck had any idea this car was barreling down on them. He is a coward. He ran like a scared little chicken from this parade.
Perhaps the one question that will remain unanswered. Why? Why did you barrel down White Rock Avenue? Why did you not stop? Why did you keep going?
Because, as the prosecutor just said, not only is he a monster, but he is also a scared little chicken. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the damn sofa. That's the sofa, and my name is Paul. Our little mascot, Roscoe, the dog, is gone right now, but his mascot, Roscoe, is here. Welcome, everybody. This is part 3 of our review of the sentencing. Now, this one we are going to focus on the victims, their impact statements, as well as the actual sentencing and what the judge had to say about this vile monster. Now, as always, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who makes this channel possible. Thank you to the Patreons, the channel members, and thank you to everybody who hangs out here on the sofa, interacts with the video, and also keeps the victims' stories alive by discussing these cases. So what we're going to do is I'm going to be putting clips up of the sentencing and whatnot and making commentary on them. I've done a bunch of videos on this particular trial, as well as lots of other videos, but especially if you're watching me for this one, there is lots more, so be sure to check out the playlist. And that is it, so let's go ahead and jump on in.
There was an abrupt stop to the proceedings when I was asked by the sheriff to meet with him, and I was advised at that time that their communication center had received a threat to the courthouse. As everyone is well aware, it's now 11:14 a.m. The sheriff has assured me that this building is quite safe, very secure were his words, and that he has taken all reasonable measures to secure the courthouse.
So as you can imagine, this trial has elicited numerous responses, and this does not surprise me, but this is the kind of anger that this trial has elicited from people. I mean, it is not good, right? I'm honestly surprised that he, and kudos to the staff and whatnot for keeping him secure to bring him to justice. I'm surprised something hasn't been done to him, right? Now, this, of course, does not include what's about to happen when he goes to prison, but just in general, right? This was a trial where I was like, I'm waiting to see something pop off at any moment.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Daryl Brooks, Jr. I'm here for this matter by special appearance. It is not my intention to bring any controversy to you, Your Honor, or your court today. I'm wondering how I may settle this matter. Is there anyone here in the court that can give me a rendering of the account?
First of all, actually says his name for the first time and takes ownership of it. Shocked over that. Now, this whole thing, I'm not here to cause controversy or any of this. Could someone, explain this? I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Here we go. And luckily, she shuts him down. She doesn't have time for this BS.
I almost lost the chance to see my wife and kids again. I may have never had the chance to love or hug them again. You intentionally harmed my community, whether it was physical or psychological. My wife cannot get the images out of her mind of what you have done. You have forever scarred her. Because of your actions, my wife had to hand over my children to our community friends to check on my lifeless body.
Now, this is what just gets me. We've heard him sit up there and ask for help and do all this. After sitting here while a victim is speaking, Daryl is rolling his eyes, doing the fake little praying thing, has his little prop Bible there. It absolutely makes me sick, and I'm sure it did everyone in the courtroom, including the judge.
But chances are someone so self-centered as Mr. Brooks will hurt other people again. The only life he seems to value is his own. I do hope Mr. Brooks will use the Bible for more than a courtroom prop.
Amen, brother. I mean, someone had to call it out, right? Everyone knows it's nothing more than a prop except for Daryl.
When I finally got home after a month of being in the hospital, it was nonstop appointments and physical therapy.
Look at how he just sits there, blank look on his face. As if it's, just any other thing he could be listening to.
So I'm not going to refer to this case as the parade. I'm going to refer to it as what it was, an attack. And the facts are very clear, Your Honor.
Amen, sister. And again, him sitting there rolling his eyes like that, laughing a little bit about it. I don't know what he thinks it was other than that. He can start trying to talk about, the brakes went out, this, that. No, it was an attack. I guess in his world, he's like, it wasn't pre-planned, it wasn't this. That doesn't matter, okay? An attack is an attack. Maybe he looked up the definition and it had the word pre-planned in it or something. I don't know. But I agree, this was an attack.
This referring to himself in the third person, trying to distract him or detract himself, I should say, from the events, taking absolutely no responsibility. It's the act of a narcissistic coward.
Again, amen, sister. Narcissistic coward, that sums him up, right? And all the stuff she just said there is so true. This is what he's done. He's tried to alleviate himself from any responsibility, and he's tried to distract the courtroom, gaslight the courtroom, as well as the victims.
When in fact, as he sits here in custody, he's in control of nothing except for his own behavior.
Mr. Brooks, be quiet.
Except for his...
I'm not going to sit here and be disrespected.
Mr. Brooks, be quiet.
I'm not going to
You'll
sit
have
here
your
and be
opportunity.
disrespected.
These are sentencing arguments and they can make them.
So I could do the same thing?
Mr. Brooks, there's nothing disrespectful. They are doing it in
Yes,
a
it is.
respectful
Okay,
way.
call me out of my name again.
Go ahead, Tony Opera.
I mean, he just can't take it. He cannot take it. And notice that he starts to lose it when she says he's in control of nothing. He cannot handle that. He cannot handle the idea of not being in control because he's probably always been in control through manipulation and these stereotypical narcissistic techniques that we see narcissists do.
I apologize. It's very emotional and frustrating right now, so I apologize to you, Your Honor, in court.
I understand it's frustrating, and I understand that.
It's just very hard to sit and, it's almost like a pile-on. So I still understand that I have to conduct myself respectfully, so I apologize.
I think the apology needs to be made to the victim, sir, more so than this court.
Definitely.
Again, aim and judge. So concerned about the wrong things, right? And it's eating him up to even have to say that to her. But it's like, finally, it's just like, why are you even at this point too? It's like not even an acknowledgement to what he's done to these victims. It's absolutely disgusting.
I have read through not one, not two, not three, but 4 reports from experts, people who are well known in this field of what we call forensic psychology and psychiatry, individuals who have an expertise in evaluating a plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Because I don't want there to be any doubt in my sentencing here today that I've considered that. But I also don't want there to be any doubt that somehow this trial was missing something. Because the fact is, Mr. Brooks entered a special plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect in the early summer, maybe late spring of this year. And this court ordered 3 court-ordered evaluations, and the state retained an expert to also review the issue. Whether the defense team at that point ever hired anyone, they are not required to disclose that. I don't know. But I have 4 well-known doctors who have written this court based upon the orders that were made or one doctor being retained. And these are reports that are thorough. One report is 24 pages, another is more of a summary, it's 8 pages, another is 26 pages, and then another is 12. And they look at the discovery information, so police reports, videographic evidence, things of that nature. They have access to any mental health related records from prior stays or things like that. They look at a history, they meet with Mr. Brooks. I've referenced this in the past when competency wasn't so much raised by any of the parties here, but during the trial there was, as Attorney Opper wanted to make a record one day of Mr. Brooks's competency. And I will restate what I stated at that point. I have absolutely no doubt that Mr. Brooks is competent. I'm obviously well versed in the legal standard, but that is not something that this court was frankly ever concerned about at any point in time. I know that his attorneys, when he had attorneys, never raised the issue. And it was really only after the trial began that that issue was raised, I think, by the public based upon what they saw.
Okay, so I wanted to put that longer clip in here just to show that part of what the judge had to say, all of the evidence, if you will, on their end of he knew exactly what he was doing. That's what this is getting down to. They have checked him up one side and down the damn next. He knows right from wrong. He is competent. He has been vetted out through all these experts. This is an evil man. This is not someone who mom and grandma can get up there and talk about, he has these mental problems and needs his medication and all this. No. Again, they can put him on some Wellbutrin when he gets up to the prison and he's going to be just fine because you can't fix this kind of evil, okay? It's who he is as a individual, as a human being. And so I felt like the judge in this part did a very good job of, again, for the record, re-putting this out there, and especially towards the end when she said this became an issue when the public was seeing everything. There's a difference in the public watching this and saying there's something not correct and getting a true diagnosis, right? Anyone can look at his behavior and say, yeah, this guy, what? But to be not accountable for his actions, this is not the case here. He is completely accountable.
And I'm going to read parts of these evaluations so that you all understand the information that I have and why it is my opinion that mental health issues did not cause him to do what he did on November 21 of 2021 and frankly did not play a role. That's not to say that he wasn't diagnosed with something. I've referenced this previously, but that's an antisocial personality disorder. And this is what one of the reports has to say. They've looked at one doctor indicated that there was available evidence to sustain a diagnosis of cannabis abuse, intoxication, antisocial personality disorder, adjustment disorder with mixed disturbance of emotions and conduct. And the reports go on to describe what those things are and that they may qualify as an abnormal condition of the mind substantially affecting mental or emotional processes and thus as a mental disease or defect as broadly defined by the Wisconsin jury instructions, and that's at least as to the adjustment disorder. Cannabis abuse or intoxication would not. The diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder, and this is what the doctor said, reflects converging support of an underlying characterological disorder versus a major mental illness. In Mr. Brooks's case, I would note his history of disregarding the rights of others and conforming to societal norms, including in the forms of multiple acts of violence beginning in his youth, contacts with the criminal justice system, lack of remorse as indicated by being indifferent, rationalizing, etc. The doctor goes on that it's her understanding that this characterological condition would not qualify as a mental disease or defect as defined by the applicable statute, which also specifies that mental disease or defect does not include an abnormality manifested only by repeated criminal or otherwise antisocial conduct.
So again, just furthering this, and I wanted to show that again, it's just like a quick snippet into what these doctors are saying. And this just goes to show with more of what we've seen. This behavior and stuff that he does, while not the social norm, if you will, while not anything that most of us watching exhibit or want to partake in with anyone in our lives or that kind of thing, it does not constitute someone who doesn't know right from wrong. It does not constitute somebody who was, not in their right mind when they did their acts that they did. Again, as the judge will say later, this is an act of evil. This is not an act of mental illness.
She said this: I am unaware of any objective corroboration that he presented, either in the hours leading up to or following the alleged offenses, as internally preoccupied or otherwise exhibiting signs of impaired reality, contact, or behavioral discontrol. To the contrary, the defendant's conduct within hours of the onset and moments following the alleged misconduct was organized, controlled, and purposeful. Moreover, he demonstrated the motivation and capacity to take efforts to evade detection and try to flee the immediate area of the parade carnage.
And see, that's the thing he keeps forgetting with all of this that he's talking about, even all the way down to his argument of, well, it could have been a defect with the car. Well, then why are you running? Why are you going to people's houses talking about, I need Uber, I need this? This is someone who knows what they did is not right, and they are trying to get away.
She went on, I have considered the seemingly inexplicable nature and magnitude of the violence and mayhem wrought by the defendant's conduct on the day in question. He has caused 6 deaths, dozens of injuries, and terrorized hundreds of parade participants and thousands of spectators. There is no indication in the extensive compilation of records and other information available that at the time of the alleged misconduct, he lacked substantial capacity to either control or conform his conduct to the requirements of the law, or that his reality contact capacity to appreciate wrongfulness was substantially impaired.
Again, we already know this. He knew right from wrong. Send him on down the line.
Do the mentally ill sometimes commit atrocious crimes? They do. This is not one of those situations.
Amen. Amen. Been saying it the whole damn time. Just like she said, yes, this can happen if you watch this in length. She gives such an eloquent sentencing speech, if you will. And yes, we've seen case after case where there are people who truly do have mental situations going on who can create some of the most god-awful crimes you've heard of. This ain't one of them, okay?
We've heard Mr. Brooks's family talk about mental illness and bipolar. In addition, before I get to that, I've also had, over my 11 years on the bench, of coming face to face with evil on occasion. There are many times, good people do bad things, but there are times when evil people do bad things. There is no medication or treatment for a heart that is bent on evil. Child trauma, bipolar, indifference, physical abuse of a child, or even childhood trauma did not cause Darrell Brooks to commit the acts for which he will be sentenced here today.
I mean, that was like poetry. And it's so true because, and I'm glad she's making this distinction. And I loved how she said, in this courtroom, describe the things she's seen. I've seen good people do evil things, but I've seen evil people do evil things. And that this is one of those. And I truly believe that too. I believe that with Darrell Brooks, we are looking into evil. Just an evil person who, like she said, whose heart is bent on evil. This is not anyone who will ever change. He's not ever shown any signs of that. And it's just unfortunate that his evilness and ways of evil interacted with all of these innocent people.
It is very clear to this court that he understands the difference between right and wrong, and that he simply chooses to ignore his conscience. He is fueled by anger and rage. Some people, unfortunately, choose a path of evil. And I think, Mr. Brooks, you are one of those such persons.
Absolutely love everything she said. And yes, I do believe he ignores his conscience, if he even really has one. I mean, clearly he has one because he knows right from wrong. He's exhibited that. The evidence shows it. But not one like you or I have, right? And I do think that he, like she just said, he chooses evil. And that he's one of those people. Look at all the interactions that he has. Look at the behavior in the courtroom.
As a mom, my heart breaks for your family, for your mom, and for your grandmother. The son that she raised, the grandson that your grandmother knew, the hopes and dreams they had for your life, they're gone. And I think it's perhaps far easier for them to blame a mental illness than to perhaps come to grips with their son did very, very bad things due to very bad motivations.
And I'm really glad that the judge just said this part because I think this is true. I do think like the human psychology part of it for the mother and the grandmother, it would be much easier to blame this on mental illness than to ever say this person whom we brought into the world did this on their own, right? You know, because they're evil. We brought this evil into the world. That's a lot to have on your shoulders, right? Whether I agree with it or not or whatever is irrelevant. So, of course, it's going to be easier to say, a mental illness did this. And of course, part of that is going to be to convince him of that as well. Because if he took accountability for it, then of course that would then pander or play back to them as well. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and say that that's all that. I don't think he would ever take accountability for this because I think he's an evil human being. But I'm very glad that the judge made this distinction. And I'm also glad that she spoke, you know, from being a mother and seeing, you know what, at one point, this mom, this grandmother, they had hopes and dreams for him. They will never happen, none of those, and that probably was set in stone a while ago, right? But regardless, that's all completely gone now.
One of the things ultimately that will happen when you are in prison, sir, is that the Department of Corrections, they are statutorily responsible for your care and your well-being, including your mental health. I do not have any authority to dictate to them where you go or how they treat you. That is far different than when there is support for a plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, because then the court has available what is called treatment facilities and a commitment to such a treatment facility. That is something that is simply not on the table. And again, 4 evaluations, not even my own assessment, but 4 evaluations from licensed professionals say otherwise. Even in the face of your family saying that, and even in the face of you claiming that. I'm not even here to say that some of those things can't coexist and you might not have some of your own mental health issues, whether it be bipolar, childhood trauma, or things of that nature. But the bottom line is none of that caused you to do what you did on November 21 of 2021. I want to next turn to the trial in this case. And I think it's important that the sentence here today focuses on your conduct on November 21 of 2021 and the moments leading up to that tragic and fateful decision of yours to drive through the Waukesha Christmas parade. And of course, the moments after. I, of course, through my sentencing remarks and ultimately what I do here today, I can't answer all of the questions. I can't address all of the issues, including the why.
So again, with this here, he can tell, right? He ain't going to any kind of a mental institution. There's been no evidence to support that, and like she said, it's not on the table. And also, I love that she said in this, look, you know, all this stuff you're claiming to need and want, the Department of Corrections can handle this on that level. That's the level that he's at, with just needing to get into some kind of like whatever they do there, right? This is not a, I need to be in a specific treatment facility long term at all. This is a Department of Corrections issue. Now, also, we're going to start getting into her sentencing stuff here. Now, she is laying the palette here of, you ain't going to, you know, you're going to prison, buddy, okay? And like she said, even with the sentence, even with that, and I think in the victims' hearts, the public's hearts, there is that lingering question that we probably will never know, and that is why.
Stop.
And try to
now.
add something in that you know for a fact never even happened. You want to sit up here
Mr.
and talk
Brooks,
about
every
who has
time-
grace and all this. You talking about someone with 5 kids that don't have custody.
You need to stop
none of
right
them.
now or you will be removed.
Remove me then.
All right? He will be removed. He cannot simply stay
I don't
quiet when
consent
this
to being
court talks.
sentenced anyway. I don't consent to this. Just like I told you, I don't know the.
He'll be in recess until he's
I don't
removed
even
to the other
understand
courtroom.
the true nature and cause.
Now, that's more of the Brooks that we know. He's just making her case solid. Now, this was in reference to Erica, the woman he was in a relationship with, has children together. This was in reference to her, and he wants to bring up the custody thing and all this. Now, it was not a good idea for him to do this in the trial because he is part of the custody issue, right? But he, of course, would never take accountability for any of that. So again, true to nature, and actually I do think this is good to get him out of the courtroom just to be able to get through what she has to get through with this, because he makes such a mess out of it.
When testimony or statements by the court or statements by the prosecution team become unfavorable to him, he lashes out and he disrupts. And that has been borne out time after time.
And it's so true. When things haven't gone his way in the courtroom, he does this gaslighting. It's what a narcissist does. It's just a narcissist narcissisting.
Why take that right-hand turn?
I just had to show that to you. I mean, come on. I mean, he's just such an idiot. Right? Second he gets in there, he starts wanting to behave to come on in there. It's like, dude, just sit down and be quiet.
Mr. Brooks, and I'm aware that he wants to come back, but until he writes me a pledge that he will not interrupt me under Illinois versus Allen, he is not coming back in this courtroom. He has forfeited his right to be present during my remarks, and unless he makes that pledge to me in writing, he's not coming back in.
Amen. Don't let him back in. He's made a mockery of the whole damn trial the whole time. Let him stay out there.
It's hard not to think about what I watched and not have this reaction. Those were images that frankly kept me up at night, that I saw over and over and over. For their band director, she is a hero to me, to get up on this stand, to talk about, and that was Sarah Waymeyer Aparicio, to identify each one of her students, talk about their formation, talk about what she saw. So strong for all of you.
My God. I mean, just no words for it. You know, to see her with this emotional reaction, which is a reaction so many of us have had during the trial. And obviously, when trials go on like this, we don't expect a judge or people in there to get emotional during the trial and whatnot. But to see this human element of the judge just kind of rounded her out as a person, if you will, and it spoke to my heart, and I feel like maybe yours as well, and what we felt, because we didn't even see all the images. And just the one that goes to my mind is when he missed that little girl, and just the anxiety that caused me of this fast car going around all these people, and I can't imagine what these victims went through, saw, the images they have in their mind, the noises. I can't. How do you overcome that? I just thought this was a beautiful human moment from the judge.
Frankly, Mr. Brooks, no one is safe from you. This community can only be safe if you are behind bars for the rest of your life.
Aim in. I mean, for eternity, okay? Never needs to see the light of damn day.
On counts 1 through 6, this court is imposing a life sentence without the possibility or eligibility for extended supervision consecutive to one another. 1 life sentence for Virginia Sorensen. 1 life sentence for Leanna Owen. 1 life sentence for Tamara Durand. 1 life sentence for Jane Kulik. 1 life sentence for Bill Hospel. And 1 life sentence for Jackson Sparks.
I loved the fact that she did these consecutive. I was so nervous that she wouldn't do them, because oftentimes I see some of these cases where they don't do that, and I'm just like, please do bury them under the jail, for God's sakes. Even if it's just, to not prove a point, but for, demonstration. I can't think of the word right now. I also love that the fact that she named each victim and said a life sentence for, so that it was for each of them. I felt like she really listened to the state prosecutor, who said doing this consecutive makes it feel like this one didn't matter over this one or whatever. And I love the fact that she let the audience clap after each one to honor these victims.
On counts 7 through 67, on each count, I will impose a total sentence of 17 and a half years. 12 and a half years of initial confinement, plus 5 years of extended supervision, consecutive to any other sentence that I've imposed here today. That is 762 and a half years of initial confinement and 305 years of extended supervision on top of the life sentences that I've imposed.
He's gonna have the damn devil as a probation officer, and I am here for it.
On counts 68 through 73, which are the 6 counts of hit and run resulting in death. These are 25-year felonies each. The court will do the following. On count 68, a 25-year total sentence, 15 years of initial confinement, 10 years of extended supervision. This will be concurrent to count 1.
Now, even though this one's concurrent, it's still good, because, he has hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands, right? We are loving this judge and the sentencing.
On count 74 and 75, the 2 felony counts of bail jumping, the court is ordering a 6-year sentence total on each count, 3 years of initial confinement, 3 years of extended supervision, consecutive to all other counts, but concurrent with one another.
Again, she just keeps stacking it, making sure he ain't ever going to get out, making sure that he will be always tied up. If he tries to do these appeals and all this kind of stuff, there's 76 charges, y'all, all stacked like this. Not all of them stacked, obviously, but the one concurrent. And I also just feel like it really helps to speak to each of the victims.
And lastly, but certainly not least, the maximum sentence for the battery to Erica Patterson, 9 months consecutive to any other sentence.
And good on her for that too, representing what was done to Erica. What popped off this entire day, right, is the battery on her.
To order anything other than what I have done, sir, would be to unduly depreciate the seriousness of these offenses. It is needed, although largely symbolic, given the number of years that I have imposed here today, because frankly, you deserve it.
I love that part. You deserve it. I mean, gives me goosebumps. And symbolic was a word I was looking for earlier. Even though this is like often symbolic to do these kind of charges like this, I think it speaks to the severity of it. I think it sends a message out there. This will not be tolerated, right? And again, he deserves every minute of that. Every last minute of it.
You are to pay restitution in the amount of $47,193.29 to EMC Insurance Company, that's on behalf of the Waukesha School District, and $124,000, $220.65 to the Crime Victim Compensation Program.
And I'm also loving this pattern we're seeing recently in sentencing of them charging the, hitting the offender with these restitution fees, right? Even though we know he'll never be able to pay these back, again, let's take away any possibility to make money. Let's take away any kind of comfort he might have. He took that decision away from so many other people.
I will order that restitution costs and fees be paid out of prison money. In other words, that all financial obligations shall be collected pursuant to statutory provisions as requested by the state. That's frankly a standard, it's customary, but it will be in the judgment of conviction. And then pursuant to 949.165, I'll find that it is appropriate for this court to order an escrow account under 949.165 for payment of restitution, costs, fees, surcharges, and even for costs associated with prior legal representation or future representation under the statute. Mr. Brooks has been convicted of a number of serious crimes for which this section is appropriate.
And there you go. Again, I'm loving this theme that we're seeing of doing the escrow accounts, the restitution, all this type stuff. Let that be symbolic. Let him not have honey buns and soups. Let him have to even work for that. Let's not make this easy on him, because I think he'll also be the type that once he gets comfy in there, which I don't think he'll ever get comfy, but if he did, he would be totally cool with being in there, right? He'll find some little like niche in there to do, and he would be fine with that, but I don't think this will be the case. If you're still watching, drop hearts, drop sofa emojis, whatever you want to show love to the victims, to the survivors, to the families, to the judge, to the prosecutor, everyone who helped put this monster away. May he never see the light of day. Now, this is going to be the last video in the sentencing part, but I am working on the interrogation because I've been watching that, and it's been very interesting to have seen everything that we've seen and to go back and watch that. So be on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, if you want to hear more of my stuff on Darrell Brooks, click the video that's popping up.